the best part of the trip. This is the trip, the best part.
Prayers for the people in Florida and the Carolinas from, I told you I was right. It's Idalia. You said it's Idalia. And I'm like, what?
I've never even said out loud what the name of it is. You're such a liar.
We're officially running out of female names, folks, that we're using fucking Idalia.
Yes, prayers to the people of California and the Carolinas. Absolutely. If you just want to wipe out Stuttering John's house, I'm fine with it. Save everyone else. Thank you.
That's sweet. Thank you, Isabel 8394. Hooper, welcome, sir. Thanks for the kind words. Sarah appreciates because I don't think she had time to look at it. I saw what you wrote on one of the comments. I think one of the bulletins she posted. It was really sweet of you. You're a great guy, and we're lucky to have you.
See, yeah, I post things, and I when it's a sad topic, I don't go back. I just post it, and I sometimes I'll drift in and check it out.
It's too painful to check it out back.
Yeah.
Hooper, I don't mean great guy as like Trump great guy. Like, you're really a great guy. I don't mean it in a patronizing Trump way. I mean, you are a great guy. I don't say great guy in a frivolous way like a lot of people do. It's just lack of a better word. Sometimes in vocabulary. You're a mensch, as the Jews say in Long Island. Lauren Marie says, by the way, fake news is Disney's going to live action night. God, Lauren, the fake news out of Disney. Sarah and I have stopped reporting on all things Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, I don't care.
Oh, are we sick of the fake? No, I mean, I've said a million times, I don't want him to do another one. And the rumors are more annoying than if he did another one. Like, I don't know what's worse, him doing another one or the rumors of him,
I haven't paid attention in the last month and a half, so he could be in Pirates 6. I don't know.
No, it's not happening. It's never going to happen. Just stop it. I just hate every bit of it. It's never going to happen. You shouldn't want it to happen if you're a fan of cinema and nuance and variety to get them away from that. It is crazy.
Okay, so my question would be, would he be playing Jack? Because the physique isn't quite matching. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe they could go a different direction.
Yeah, they could stretch him like they did Paul Abdul and Promise of a New Day.
I mean, what do you have all the special effects for at Disney if you can't do that? Yeah. Did you see the young version of him in, I think it was 5?
Yes, I did.
Spitting doppelganger. Crazy.
It's a watercolor painting on the screen.
That's how far that's what AI can do if it wants to.
And that was what, 10 years ago? So.
Yeah. No, well, the Pirates, no, 7.
God. Now you're really going to give me the year.
7. That's okay. That's okay. Kathy Scott, welcome. Phenomenal job you did on the Jump Street watch along. You very, very, what I would say is correction officer, acute observation, the power of observation, like astute, like you have to really, really, like your head's on a swivel in her industry, right? I believe that she has an enhanced level of observation. That's my opinion.
She's an honorary sergeant, and I call her Sergeant Scott.
Big boss lady.
Yes, there you go.
And that's not a comment on physique or anything like that. It's just there's a wrestler, the Big Boss Man, and his shtick was he was a prison guard, right? What was the backstory?
I think at one point, yeah. He went from like weird Dukes of Hazzard type cop to like SWAT team cop toward the end of his life.
I never saw the SWAT team tactical gear.
I enjoyed that much more.
I stopped watching around that time, so I had no knowledge of that, shtick, gimmick transition, and never saw it.
And I have to tell you, this might be pitiful, but my father loved wrestling. Even the new wrestling, he would watch it. What's on 3 times a week? He would, every time wrestling, a hint of wrestling would be on, he'd watch it. So I've been watching wrestling. I've been getting into new wrestling. It's not good, but It's like I'm just doing it as like tribute.
That's Lauren Marie's workout at the gym, Sarah. She does pro wrestling classes where she just like runs up, just bounces off the ropes for 45 minutes and jumps off the turnbuckle. And that's when she says the gym here, that's what she means.
Yeah. I would give Roman Reigns some though.
That is a great workout. Can I copyright that?
Okay, great.
The
You're in
wrestling
your own
workout?
little world right now.
No, I'm like, I'm a drinking I'm changing coach to consultant, by the way.
Yeah.
Drinking consultant. That you could just, run off the ropes and just do like a, simulated my friend Jim Verdone and I would do it for 15 minutes. It's quite the workout. It really, I mean, it'd be fun and you could choreograph it. And it's honestly, I think it's better than like any form of like, elliptical machines or any spin classes. Forget that. Do pro wrestling.
Yeah. Well, I'll
Absolutely.
take bumps.
So say a prayer for me now. Save it for the morning afternoon.
What are you on right now?
You want to be a bit goofy when you do the show, right?
I mean, you have to be.
You do.
So yeah, so far I need chemicals right now. I have worked a half day overtime. Today's my day off. I drove up to Portland, which is an hour and a half away. Put flowers on my father's, makeshift grave. It's still in like the early stages, so it's not really presentable yet. It's his birthday, so I had to go up there, put flowers there. Drove back an hour and a half and walked in the door a half hour ago.
You going through. I mean, is there any end in sight? By the way, I want to thank everybody,
Yes.
not just Hooper, but a lot of people were really kind to you in those comments. Everybody was.
Thank you. I
Your
appreciate it
Katie
all.
Aldana's and Kathy, everybody, Hooper, Lauren Marie, everybody, Sue Monster, of course. I'll say the names as they come in. Pretty much it. Kyla Sierra Alpha was in there. That welcome, Kyla. So yeah, you're going through one of the roughest series of tragedies, and hopefully
And
it
the
doesn't
first
come
one,
in
yeah.
threes and like. I'm next or something.
Oh yeah. Oh God. What would I have left?
No, no.
The first one, I think I talked about it on Patreon. First one, my ex passed away.
That's
That was
crazy.
whatever.
All in the same 2 weeks.
Sad, situation for him. He screwed me one final time at the end. I won't talk about that. But and then my father died a week and a half later. So, but my dad, you know what? When people die, people tend to lift them to sainthood a bit.
Yeah.
You couldn't lift this guy any higher. My
could lift
father
it.
was a literal saint.
He could lift
So,
Thor's hammer. He's so worthy of it.
yes, he raised me to be strong, barrel through, and look forward to tomorrow. So,
And speaking of wrestling, raised you over his shoulders to watch a card at.
Hulk Hogan.
Was it the old Rose Garden? Or
Yeah, I think it was like 86.
that might have been the Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah, I had my little Hulkamaniac pointy finger, my foam finger, and I went to see Hulk Hogan.
Soap opera for men, says Super. That's exactly what wrestling is.
Yeah.
The only one I know that matches your level of tragedy is my cousin. Within a year and a half,
Oh yeah.
lost his wife,
Mm-hmm.
father, and sister
Yep.
in about 15 months or something like that.
I was like, what do? You can't stop any of it. You got to face it. It's
And
rough.
then his best female friend last year, and that's like a little bit later, but it just keeps going. He has got such a perspective on
Mm-hmm.
loss and stuff. It was that's the only one I know rivals that.
Yeah.
One fell swoop. Anyway, I want to thank everyone. Sarah, you want to talk about? I want to talk about. We are going to be doing a NFL fantasy football draft. I'd like to have as much as 16 teams, as little as 12. So somewhere in there, it's a gunkening kind of crossover with Deppening people. You don't have to like either, be on either show as far as. But I think I'm gonna do the draft live because I finally have the hang of StreamYard. So
Yeah.
I'm
Let's
gonna do it live.
screen
And
share it.
kind of
Oh, I can't
riff.
wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I just kind of whatever, riff and hang out, and I'll show the draft on my screen in the way that you're looking at this document, and it should
Mm-hmm.
be fun. And again, in between picks, talk about whatever. Try to keep it NFL, but it doesn't have to be. I've always
No.
wanted to do that, but I've always been afraid. I don't know why. I've always just been afraid. I don't know. It just seemed like fantastical that you could do a fantasy draft on a live YouTube stream.
Yeah.
It's not. It's been around forever. I just was afraid of it.
So what do you need? Email addresses?
Yeah, yeah. Email me at gunk here or Twitter arm34. The
Or
Deppening
the
email
Deppening at
is
gmail.com.
very good too. Or what's the other one I use? Twitter. I said Twitter, right?
Or yeah,
Instagram.
or go to Patreon and send us a message.
And I want to thank Boff and Johnny Bye Bye for your endless contributions and links and stuff. I mean, you can't do this without you. And this Sarah's going to sit this one out. We're going to have like a one-on-one with one of the Amber Heard super fans, Medusa One. Hopefully, I'm not positive yet. She hasn't said yet, but I'm going to work on that. I'm just going to hear her side. I'm not pushing back. I'm just going to go, hey, you're not changing anyone's mind. So I want to hear her out what that's like in her saga, because I think she was back and forth in this, and she's an incredible researchist, just completely dedicated to digging for things no one's talking about in the unsealed documents, which I often do, and you can't see it all. But I want to hear her perspective for a left turn change. And Johnny Bye Bye was the one who recommended that.
And much to our monetary detriment, we talk about both sides. We talk about the good and the bad. So even though I will be sitting it out, you got to hear both sides of this. So that's how we learn. But Arm will pre-record that, I'm guessing, if it happens. But and then we will play it on a future episode.
One-on-one. I'm tired of playing on the team. Well, it seems I don't get time out anymore. Oh, what a sad if we set the pace face to face. No
I don't
one
know what
even
you're doing right
tries
now.
to score. Oh, and oh, I can feel the magic of your touch. And when you're moving closer, a little bit means so much. And one on one, I wanna play that game
You're obsessed with
tonight.
Hall & Oates.
I am obsessed with Hall & Oates.
So weird.
My dream was if Depp was ever to do anything musically, he would do live from Daryl's house.
Oh, sure.
Even if he has to bring fucking dinosaurs with him.
He'd
Do it.
probably like play guitars with Baba Booey from Hall & Oates.
I love A. Smith. He's such great for your ego. He just loves to sing.
He's just
the
too
best.
kind.
He's the best. I'm so glad he's on my team.
All right, so remove the chat for just a second.
He's
Let
the
me get-
guy I want in a
Oh
fist.
my
If I
God.
ever get into a fist fight in my middle-agedom, he's the guy I want having my back.
Yeah, you don't want to fight him. I don't think.
Oh, I know. I bet you he's got like
He'd lay
6
you out.
martial arts disciplines under his belt.
He has like Oz moves.
Yes. All I know is pro wrestling.
Oh God. Anyway, take the chat down for just a second. I know you can't help yourself. Okay, my least favorite part of the show, but since it is the last day of the month, I'm so sorry, everybody. We are still $140 away from our goal this month. If you can, and only if you can, please super chat us, super thanks us, super sticker us. If you can donate, we also have the Venmo QR code on the screen. The Cash App is there, $ Deppening1, and join us at patreon.com/Wino forever. $2. It's the greatest $2 you'll ever spend in your life. Promise. But no money back guarantee.
Yeah. And we won't think anything less of you if you don't. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm anti-grifter. I can't.
That's why I have to handle this. And
Well,
you won't.
I would be a grifter if I didn't. If this wasn't an absolute. I'm not a top shelf passion for this. I mean, I would be a grifter if I were the lawyers who pretended to all those shitheads who latched on. I'm the opposite of a grifter. Thank you, Lauren Marie,
Thank
and that
you.
wasn't pandering to do that from the elliptical machine. Sarah, she drops a 10 spot from the elliptical.
And she even emojied me a black heart.
Thank you, Lauren. We are lucky to have you. There's nothing better than Lauren Marie treatise in one of our Patreon videos. She knows everything. She knows so much. She fills in all the pop culture gaps that I don't have.
And I certainly ain't going to the theater, so she fills us in on all the happenings at the theater. On Broadway.
Lauren's one of those people.
Off Broadway, whatever.
Probably like me, who went to the actual theater like at least once a week. She goes, I am on the elliptical. I knew it. I knew you were elliptical broad. I used to go to the theater twice a week sometimes, and that's Lauren's routine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it still holds up. I can't keep it up anymore. I'm not. It's too easy at home to catch this. I don't have. I got to get somewhat back into it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that'd be my resolution.
You live literally 2 blocks from a movie theater.
And there's several of them
Mhm.
around. Oh
Mhm.
my! I would fall asleep. It would hit me like the fatigue of the day would hit me, and it got so peaceful that any slow moment in the film, I would just doze off, and you'd hear this. You'd hear this. I caught myself
Oh,
like 100 times. You hear this,
how embarrassing.
and I wake up to, and I think that's sleep apnea.
I never fell asleep during Mystic River or Vanilla Sky, so how the hell do you fall asleep during movies you like?
Mystic Sky and Vanilla River.
Same thing, boring.
That was God, Vanilla Sky came out right when
Oh, it's the
what wasn't it
worst.
you called Tom Cruise. You said that.
No,
Yes, you did. You
you
said
make
that.
things up. It's so
No, you said
weird.
that. You said this. You said that Penelope Cruz is dating Tom Cruise at the time, and she called him El Quiro. Is that
You
true?
keep saying that, and I'll go along with it, I guess.
You said it. You made it up.
All right.
Uh, um. Okay, so what we're doing here is thanks to Andrea Burkhart, the only lawyer that I cared about during the whole all the grifters that came on. She's the opposite. She's the only one that didn't grift, and she unsealed all the documents that you're not the no stuff they don't want people to know about. When you're sealing something, it's like we don't want you to know this. This is only going to be used against us. That's how I
Mhm.
take it. And so Andrea Burkhart assembled this movement where she paid, was it $6,000?
I thought it was like 9.
I thought it was okay. Well, 6 or 9. I thought it was 6. Maybe it was 9. To force the Fairfax courts to unseal the information that you never got from Fairfax. And there's great stuff in here. A lot of people, it doesn't get a lot of attention when the grip because there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make Depp look good, and too bad. He's, as they like to say, the apologist of the apologists. Oh, he's not perfect. We know that. Ben Shue said it. Vasquez said it. Yes, he's not perfect, and this is why. And you need to see this stuff to get full transparency on the trial. I don't like that anything is sealed, and I don't like
Mhm.
objections, and I don't like anything. I want to know all of it. I'm here for the entertainment. My mind's already made up. Um,
You take the chat down.
and so, I was cherry picking through it. It's very hard the way it's formatted. I wish I had I don't know, like a system where I could get to, because stuff is written in that legalese kind of way, and then it's hard to read, and then so I would just go to the easiest things, and I was reading. This is a deposition. Depp's sister, Christi Dembrowski's older sister, who's kind of like the gatekeeper in his life, almost like a Marcy Turkish, almost like a cross between Marcy Turk and Lauren. Uh, what's Lauren's last name? Lackner,
Mhm.
Howard's assistant, Laura Lackner and Marcy Turk. So I mean, she's a gatekeeper. She's his assistant. She said she worked for Sony at some point, which is bizarre to think that using his fame, she's not even. She's a high school graduate. She bartended. Hey, help me out. Uh, Kathy, if you could ask Lori Allison, was Christie a bartender in Miramar at some of the clubs they worked at? Because I thought I read that somewhere in a very nothing anyone saw. Something that I dug for like a couple of years ago. Ask Kathy if you're listening. Ask Lori Allison if Christie Depp Dembrowski was a bartender at the clubs or a few of the bars that they played in the early '80s. If that's what she did. And certainly he lived with her, and we heard the story with what's her name from Housewives, Sara, Beverly Hills,
He lived with, I don't know.
the Nubian princess from
Oh, Garcelle.
Garcelle Beauvais. He briefly dated her, and I believe she was underage. She was either she couldn't have she had to be 16, and they were getting amorous on Christie's couch, I believe, during that story. So
Mhm.
she testified twice. You saw her. She kicked off the trial with Isaac Baruch. She was in the first day, and it was crazy. I'd never seen her before. I've only seen pictures of her. I'd never seen her. It was crazy to me. It was surreal. I've heard about her for decades, and so she testified, and She didn't testify. It's, in my opinion, Sarah, maybe you could. They may not have been satisfied with this one we're about to do, that they had to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what happens when you do it twice?
I've never had to do this, thank God, but I believe so. I would think.
That this wasn't satisfactory enough. This didn't. They got too much stuff that didn't make Depp look the greatest light, and
Mm-hmm.
they did it over again. They did like a mulligan on her. I can only imagine, like, because we saw video testimonies from so many other people. So why not keep this? All I can think of is they're not satisfied with it, and the team had it killed from admission.
Mm-hmm. Now, I do want to say
Submission.
we're going to go through a bit of this today. At the end, we will go through the chat. While we're doing this, it's going to be difficult to address
Yeah.
the chat in real time. But since Sue got this in before, I will read it. Sarah, did you hear Hulk Hogan was on Rogan? I just sorry, it was a great listen. I know he was on. Yeah, it's hilarious.
Okay, I know what you're gonna say. I can tell.
Okay. Hold on. I know he was on Rogan. I haven't heard that. I heard on the Corny Drive-Through show with Jim Cornette. The greatest thing they ever do is they go through Hogan's lies. I laugh every time. They were going through everything that he has stretched in terms of the truth, and they do it masterfully. Anyway, I would recommend that. So
every time Hogan says basically, there's a lie sure to come.
well, that was on Arsenio one time, but yeah, find Corny Drive through Jim Cornette on YouTube and listen to his Hogan stuff. It's so good.
One of them was he was responsible for Simon Cowell, right, coming to America.
Yes, bringing him, and it doesn't make any sense in terms of the timeline about what really happened. So he talks about how he was at Wembley and he helped this kid through Make-A-Wish. He wasn't at Wembley, and I think he's just taken too many chair shots to the head.
Right.
And too many blades to the forehead, and it pierced his brain at some point. So I don't know if he just gets off on lying. His life by itself, the truth is interesting enough, but he thinks he has to be in every single thing that's happened in history through the WWF
at the forefront of it.
Yeah, it's just, oh my God, it's so humorous, but I think it's more of a mental issue with him.
Yeah, Cornette, you showed me. I listened to about 5 minutes of it. It was great. Cornette
laughed.
called him a sociopath.
Yeah,
like a straight up sociopath.
You have to be, but he'll always like throw in where like, oh yeah, they were Hulkamaniacs. What? That's not part of the story. You don't have to tell that. Anyway,
he's so insecure that he can't help but embellish and then make him
to be the best in the wrestling world.
What's the term we learned from the Fairfax trial? One of the only lawyers I liked. He looked like Foggy Nelson. Geez, what is his name? Rick Hogue or something. He used the word fabulist, and fabulist means someone who lies or exaggerates a massive. Bert Kreischer is this, which they're the center of the story and they're the hero of the story, and all these fantastical things happen to them and only them. They're the center of the universe. Every crazy thing only comes through them at all times. It is a great word. It's called fabulist, and I never learned it. Last year is the first time I ever heard it.
It's fitting in this case. But yeah, go to YouTube if you're in the mood for a laugh. Type in Jim Cornette Hogan. It's the greatest.
Jim Cornette, for those who don't know, was probably one of the top 5 managers of all times, and he's just everywhere. He's done it all, seen it all, he's worked with everybody, and has an insane encyclopedic knowledge of anything that happened from the time he's even beforehand. I can't believe what that guy knows.
To AEW. He's got so much knowledge.
Has his receipts too. Yeah. So when he calls you out as a liar, he has his receipts to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's a great listen.
Nobody
great
cares about wrestling. I apologize.
I know. Sue, our beautiful Sue Monster asked, so you have to answer it. Lauren Marie says, "You're right. In my teens and 20s, I went 3 times a week to the movies. That's me. That was me. Something like that. At least twice a week. It was all with no internet. All the downtime was go to the movies. And I was a huge TV watcher, but that ran out too, no matter how many channels you thought you had. So here we go. Christi Dembrowski, originally, Christi, the first time you see, she is named in the manager's lawsuit about squandering Depp's $650 million fortune with William Rassel, his nephew, with Bruce Witkin, his best friend. That's a great testimony. That's going to be the next thing we do. That's a great Unsealed. I can't wait. There's so much shit in there. James Russo, the Italian character actor, he's in Donnie Brasco, and believe it or not, he's in Public Enemies in the beginning of that. So he gets him a job on that, and Ninth Gate. So he's in at least 3 things with Depp. He was going to be homeless. This is a really noble thing. This is like, and Depp saved his family from getting evicted. That piece of shit, Jonathan Shaw, and his got gun running and drug running, and these are the crappy friends he has. Like this guy is right at the top of the list. And he's like a tattoo artist in the East Village, and he's like a celebrity tattoo artist, and just tired of all of them. And who am I forgetting? Sal Janko, Blowfish from 21 Jump Street. Oh, Cohen or the Viper Room. They had a huge falling out. I'd love to know more about that. We know as much as we're going to know, and I need because of Josh Richmond, but I want to know. That's something I wish would come out more. Sal Janko. And his sister, Christie, is in here. And this is before Fairfax, and I will go into what to name her in this lawsuit is crazy. How do they come back from this? Unless, Sarah, what do you think? How do they come back from this?
On a personal level?
Well, let's say this is true. How do you come back from this? What retribution, what redemption is she going to do in his eyes in
She's
order
going to be the first witness for his side in a defamation trial.
Never has this been said. Where I'm hypothesizing this because it has to be. So this is a scant 3 years ago. No, I'm sorry, 5 years ago. Distributions to Christi Dembrowski. Again, this is Johnny Depp's older sister, who was his manager and gatekeeper. And during the entire time, TMG, which is the Mandel Group, that stands for, acted. It's actually easier for me to say the Mandel Group than TMG. Acted as Depp's business manager. New cross-defendant Dembrowski was Depp's personal manager, primary contact with his advisors, and 24/7 gatekeeper. In 2004, Depp formed his production company, Infinitum Nihil, and was run by Dembrowski as president. The $7.1 million in distributions over 17 years to Dembrowski was knowing payments that Depp made over those years for the benefit of Dembrowski. Now, Depp saying that $7 million is not her salary. It's something she squandered. That's not her salary. That's something that she just ran, just what do they say? Who counts the money under the bar? Skimmed from the till, as they say, right, in the mafia. Who worked tirelessly on Depp's behalf. Contrary to allegations in Depp's FAC, Depp was fully aware that he was paying these expenses over the years for the benefit of Dembrowski. How could you not know that, Sarah? I don't even Depp's gleeful, blissful ignorance sometimes to find out. How do you not know that? Come on.
Again, though, I do think he just turned his head on a lot of this and just allowed things to happen. I don't know how to phrase it, because I think if he paid attention to it, that would.
But things are going so well in his career at that point, you're never going to think this is going to end.
Well, see, and he said when he was testifying, he said, as long as I'm working, there's money. So according to him, he never really paid attention to how much money. I don't know how you wouldn't. I count my pennies. But how do you not? Like you're saying.
I don't think people realize the extent of what someone like Depp has at his fingertips in no time flat. I'll just give you an example. I'm kind of like, I think I've read the Tracy Jacobs transcript more than anything. And this is some of the stuff. The guy was offered a Turkish airline commercial to the tune of $15 million for what was, according to Jacobs, no more than 2 days' work. 15. Could you imagine having at any given moment, anything bad happens to you? Hey, I can do a Turkish airline commercial for $15 million tomorrow in 2 days.
I'll go to Japan and do a cigarette commercial.
No, that's exactly right. He did a Japanese beer commercial. What did he get for that? Was it 10 million? In the
don't recall.
Same thing. You know what? A
Mhm.
Japanese beer commercial playing air guitar with Dustin Gwen on a top of a building. He gets $10 million.
Mhm.
Um, Fucking Dior, Sauvage, my everything wrong with the absolute jump the shark parody of yourself. To me, more embarrassing than the Hollywood vampires. I hate every second of it. If you told it is the personification of selling out. I hate every bit of it, and I get made fun of for that commercial. I'm taking the brunt. I'm getting people texting me how lame and that commercial is and what a sellout he is. I'm the one taking the brunt. So don't come on me that oh poor Johnny. No, I'm the one. You feel sorry for me. We've all seen the goddamn Sauvage commercials. They play during the Super Bowl and huge events.
I love
It's
him.
horrible. I don't care if you think he's good looking. They're artistically, and he chooses to do that and then pretends he likes the perfume, which is even more. I can't tell you how irritated I am by that.
I enjoy it just for the shot of the buffalo, and because it makes no sense, and him saying "in the wilderness." That's all
Yes.
I watch him for, and he looks damn good.
John O'Reilly says taxes paid. That's a great point. Where taxes paid on the $7.1 million is the monies were received. I wonder if you can hide those in some tax shelter or take so that
That's what they do best.
or to the form of cash where you don't even know.
It's what accountants for the rich do.
That's right. That's
Hide your
right.
money.
So as we go on here, Depp's distributions to Dembrowski, now he claims, were treated as loans primarily because periodically over time, Dembrowski would make a repayment to Depp. This would sometimes occur when Dembrowski was entitled to receive fees, for example, on a movie produced by Infinitum Nihil, and Depp was in need of those funds. This was an informal arrangement dictated by both Depp and Dembrowski. I say Dembrowski is a name of his. I'm going to say it again. It's a name of his sister's married name. We could say both. It's just easier that way. Who are the closest of siblings. Depp was fully aware that these distributions to Dembrowski were paid for the majority of Dembrowski's living expenses over the years. Wasn't it amazing, Sarah, all the grandchildren she had?
Yeah, how many was it again?
I think eight,
Mm.
8 to 10. I think they
How
said.
many kids does she have?
Oh God, I want to say four.
Eight's
I'm
not
not. We'll
out of
probably
the.
find. I forget. It's like something like four. Well, it'll probably come up in what we're about to read. In addition to Depp, Dembrowski authorized all of the distributions to herself, often by
Mhm.
personally signing numerous checks and check authorization forms. The actual outstanding loans to Dembrowski at the time that Depp terminated the Mandel Group are capable of. The Mandel Group is his business managers, who he was. This is a lawsuit from. This is this is documentation from that lawsuit, are capable of being calculated to a sum certain, but are millions less than Depp claims in his interrogatory responses. To understand just how malicious and frivolous Depp's claims are with respect to TMG's distributions to Dembrowski, Depp is still employing his sister as the president of his production company. In June of 2017, which was well after the lawsuit was filed, Depp announced that Infinitum Nihil entered into a first look deal with IM Global, and that Dembrowski is one of the key executives who will be overseeing the endeavor. It is absurd to think Depp would trust his sister to oversee this important joint venture if he sincerely believed she had actually accepted and signed over for $7 million in unauthorized payments. Even more outrageous, on information and belief, Depp has also failed to demand that Dembrowski repay any of the outstanding loans at issue in his FAC. They got a point, right? Why would you go through with all that if
Agreed.
she owed 7 million? And this is, out of maybe like embarrassment and over, and I can't appreciate his generosity more than anything. I will never take a shot at that.
Mhm.
As they say, right? Can't take it with you.
Not at all. Agreed. And you know, of course, this is their personal business, but how do you think she feels?
No, this is my business
No, of
now.
course it is.
Toots.
I apologize.
This is just as much my business. Go ahead. Thank you, Hooper. Oh, I'm going to buy some Dior. I would rather smell like Pert Plus, Hooper. I would rather smell like the Long Island Sound at a Bayville after Jackie Martling swim to the jetty. I just watched his documentary, by the way. It was really good. I thought it was really good.
I almost got you Dior for Christmas last year.
Thank you, Hooper. Geez. We are lucky to have each and every one of you in the chat. I say it all the time. I'll never
Mhm.
take it for granted. If people go, why do you say the individual names? Like, who the fuck am I to not say the individual? How unappreciative and jaded do you have to be to not mention and all the information we get?
I know we are here due to you in the chat. Thank you so much. Anything you give us, even just by being here, is good enough. But donations are great too.
Tell me if you see this.
Yes.
We got to go to page 8.
If you need to, by the way, take the overlay off
What overlay?
at the bottom, the Venmo thing. If it's covering it,
That's fine.
I think it
It's
should
fine.
be okay too. But
Yeah, it's just off to the right. So this is from the Unsealed documents, February 22nd. The actual Fairfax trial is a scant 2 months after this. They make her do a mulligan and do it again because I believe they're not satisfied with this. I'm often annoyed by, we're going to gloss over Camille Vasquez, who is like deified, and I like her too, but it's out of control. She annoys me more than anything in these because she is my cock block of information. Every dumb object before the thing even starts. John O'Reilly, you know how it is. Like 2 seconds, she has no idea what's coming. If I were Amber Heard's team, I would be like, okay, we got it, Judge. Camille's going to object to every single thing we say, no matter what it is. We'll just, for the record, let's get it out of the way. She objects to everything I'm about to say. I haven't even started the sentence. If Depp looks remotely bad, she objects. He's perfect. We got it, Camille. We got it. You object. And I think there's this, and I want to ask John this. Is there a slick trick lawyers do when they object like this before the thing? Like they don't even know what they're objecting to, where they change the language in the objection, like they change to make it sound like there's nuance or variety. Oh, I object to the grounds that it's not. And then they switch it up to make it look like she's not just lazily objecting in the same way every time. I was like yelling at the screen a couple days ago reading this at her. I was so annoyed. So much so
I'm sure she heard you.
we cut Camille out of this. I was going to have someone play her, and it's so annoying and so redundant that I just don't think it's necessary. She doesn't say anything of note.
Okay.
She literally says nothing.
All right.
And it took a lot for me to do that, but I cut her out. It's more annoying a hindrance than anything else, getting the information.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, in all fairness, like Ben Chu does the same thing. It's the same objections. It's in the
That's
same
what they're
way.
supposed to do. That's
Yeah,
their job,
I
though.
know, but it's so, after you do it so much, it becomes like a cry wolf thing that it loses its effectiveness because you do it every time. Like, okay, well, they're obviously afraid of real information.
And
John,
chat, we will get back. Okay, never mind.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, chat, we'll get back to you shortly.
I just want to read this from John, the legal expert. Yeah, the trick is to signal the witness. You are not supposed to make speaking objections. Yeah, it's, you know what I mean. Like, if you want to read, I'm not gonna read her objections. They're so fucking tedious. So okay, so I just want to go give the start of it. So how this looks in the unsealed form. When you go to the top, right? It said, look at this immediately, right? This is unsealed. So this is when it was confidential, and Andrea Burkhart had these excavated. So it literally says in huge bold print, confidential transcript of Christi Dembrowski.
Oops.
And case number and stuff, and the videographer Drew Halton, Camille Vasquez of Brown Rudnick, Miss Hickok. I am Cindy Hickok on behalf of Christi Dembrowski, deponent. Good morning. Okay, so we're on page
9.
Let me
You're
right
right there.
Okay, page 9. Yeah, this is. I want to get the participants right. Mr. Treece, who I'm playing, is Joshua. Almost says Joshua Tree. On behalf of defendant and counterclaim Amber Heard, with me today, I have my co-counsel and colleague Ben Rottenborn, who you all know from the trial. Joshua Treece, you don't know from the trial. His picture is in my avatar right here. So I kind of wonder what his take on all this is. They didn't use him. Maybe he would have been better. Can't be worse. And then Cindy Hickox, which is representing Christie Depp Dembrowski.
Who's
Sara.
playing Hickox?
Nobody. I don't think she does much.
Okay.
If it comes to it, I'll do it. Just in a regular speaking voice. Okay, the page, I lose it all the time, Sarah. It's on the top right of the square, and it's
Yes.
not big enough, and it's number 9. And Kristen, okay, so I'm going to start as Mr. Treece, where I start examination,
Okay.
and you are going to be Christi Dembrowski, because you sound like her anyway. And you do not hold back on that address.
I haven't even seen this,
Good.
so you don't even let me prepare for this. So I apologize in advance.
I didn't. I mean, I just breezed through it, but I thought I've always wanted this. So this is the unsealed documents you did not hear in Fairfax 2 months before Fairfax, Johnny Depp's sister, and they threw this out because I guess they deemed it ineffective. Good morning, Mr. Dembrowski. As you know, my name is Josh Treece. I represent Amber Heard in this litigation. I wanted to ask you first if you'll state your full name and address for the record and residential address.
My address is 6529 Santa Rosa Road, Camarillo, California 93012.
Thank you. I'll record that. And what is your work address?
Well, I'm working remotely.
Okay, so you're working from home.
Yes.
All right. Now, have you had your deposition taken before?
No.
I see. In any other case, not in just connection with this case.
Yes, once.
Okay, so you've been deposed. When were you deposed?
I don't recall. A few years ago. I don't recall the dates.
Do you recall what that was in connection with?
Yes.
And what was that?
It was in connection with, excuse me, a different lawsuit from Bloom Hergot, I believe.
Hey, Sarah, that was a great Christie, because she does a lot of clearing the throats
I
and
had to
very
anyway.
demure. That was really good. And just so I understand, are you saying that you were deposed in connection with the lawsuit that Johnny Depp filed against Bloom and Hergot?
Yes.
And what was the nature of your testimony generally? Can you recall that? What were you asked about? Was it the basis of your knowledge and involvement? Okay, this is okay, right? I'll just give you one. Objection, vague and compound. Why was it compound? Why? This is her the whole time. Unintelligible, just vague. We got it. We got it. We got it. You object.
Okay.
Let me ask you, Ms. Dembrowski, do you recall if there was a central focus of topics for your deposition in that case? Right down to the witness.
That's where I'm going. I answer?
You can answer it if the annoying Ms. Vasquez won't stop objecting.
If you understand the question. Okay. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but here's what I would answer. For me, it was mostly to talk about a list of projects and the involvement of the legal team, Bloom Hergot.
Okay, all right. Well, we don't need to go far down that road. You understand that you're here today and pursuant to a subpoena, is that correct?
Yes.
And I'm going to move an exhibit over into the chat box, and I can also share that on your screen. Mr. Dembrowski, are you able to view the screen?
Yes.
This is great. She's got to fiddle with like modern technology and download. That's frustrating. I've done that before. You're trying to download a document in a chat while you're being like screened and deposed and grilled. That stuff. She's a Luddite, right? Even though she's working in Infinite and Niles' office on the Commodore 64.
Who
Sarah, if you
knows?
see anything in the chat, because I'm on the
I'm
wrong,
not
I'm on the
looking at
big
the
picture.
chat. I have this full screen. We'll go back to the chat later.
Okay. Do you recognize this document? And I don't know if you have the ability to download it on your end on the witness side. I put it in the chat box, so you have to access it. Do you recognize this as your subpoena for today's appearance?
I believe so.
Okay, and can you go to the top, all right?
Yes.
All right, and let me ask you, what have you done to prepare for today's deposition? Now go to A.
Okay, sorry. Mainly to make sure that I understood, since I've never done a remote, deposition before, so that I understood the process and to make sure that my internet was working because I was having trouble with that.
This is her lawyer. She just goes, I'm just going to advise Christy, make sure you listen to his question. He's asking you, did you prepare, if anything?
I didn't really.
Well, let me ask you this. Did you review any documents in preparation for today's deposition?
No.
Well, have you reviewed the complaint or counterclaim in the lawsuit?
I haven't really reviewed documents.
All right, and I wanted to ask you, you have siblings, correct?
Yes.
And who are your siblings?
Excuse me. I have a brother, Danny, a sister, Debbie, and my younger brother, Johnny.
We are fascinated with, especially Danny, because he's 10 years
Acclaimed
older than,
author.
yeah, and yeah, David, we found he is like crime novels, and he's a writer, and he co-wrote The Brave, the movie that Depp directed, and he's 10 years older than Johnny is. He's going to be 70 soon, which is crazy, and he looks like him in the face, but they're half brothers, so it's more so that um, do you, do you have children?
Yes.
Oh, I was right. Who are your children?
I have 4 daughters.
Wow, so they're the grandkids are all wrought from those 4 daughters. We've never seen Depp's. I did see a picture of his niece years ago in the early to mid 90s. He's
Mm-hmm.
holding his niece in a photo shoot, like on the
A
beach
few
or
photo
something.
shoots.
Yeah. And who are they?
Scroll down.
Okay. We're skipping Camille's tedium and go to. You still need to answer that. And then we have to go skip it again. Jesus Christ. Are your children under the age of 18?
No.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, Christy is 62. She's 2 years older than Johnny is. So she's 62. Yeah, they'd be older than. I mean, I assume she had him young. Let's see if we get to
I
the
don't think
heart
she'd
of that.
lie about that.
No. So, are all of your children adults?
Yes.
And what is your current occupation?
I work at a production company.
What's the name of the production company?
Oh, no.
Say it.
I
I'll
can't.
say it for you, Miss Dembrowski.
Infinitum nihil.
Good enough. Good enough. With the pretentious production company. No surprise there from Mr. Depp. And is that production company owned by your brother, Johnny Depp?
Yes.
Get fucking out of my life, Camille, here. Okay. You say okay.
Okay.
Scroll. Is the production company Infinite Nile controlled by your brother, Johnny Depp?
I don't understand controlled, so
Okay. Does he call the shots with respect to what Infinite Nile needs to be doing? He's the witness.
okay. I think we have there's a team of us at work that we all work together and make decisions.
And does the team consider Johnny Depp the boss?
He would be considered, I suppose the boss, but not necessarily a boss, more of a, he's had, he's head of the company, I suppose.
Nicely done, Sarah. That's
I know,
tough.
keep
She
going.
does a lot of stammering, and it gives you a chance, like when you impersonate Depp himself, like there's a lot of, the Hunter S. walking pauses. You have time to think, right? To say the perfect, precious thing. She does a lot of stammering too, so you get to do that if you want. And do you consider Johnny Depp the boss of the company?
Another objection.
Oh God, and I'll refrain
Okay.
that. Do you consider Johnny Depp the head of the company?
I've always considered him as not necessarily the boss, but he was, the key player for all of us. He's, because we all work together. So
Why did I lose my spot here? Why am I losing my spot?
oh my God.
Okay, it's his company, is it not?
Another
They're just
objection.
using it. Fuck you. Okay, witness.
I suppose it is.
And would you let me ask you this? Do you work for any other company other than Infinitum Nile?
No.
Do you have any other sources of income other than Infinitum Nile?
No. Job-wise, no.
And you would agree with me that your financial interests then are aligned with Infinitum Nile's financial interests, correct?
I'm sorry, I'm not really understanding exactly the question.
Okay, let me ask you this. You would agree with me that your financial interests are aligned with your brother's financial interests because he owns the company, isn't that right? That you work for and from which you get paid, correct?
I would say I'm employed.
In other words, you're employed by your brother through a company, correct?
I'm employed at a company that my brother owns.
Are you married?
Yes,
What's your husband's name?
Brian.
Brian Dembrowski.
Yes.
And oh, this is great. So we know about this little bit of gossip here, which is and have you had a relationship with Keenan Wyatt? Earpiece sex, as they say. And they're trying to object the shit out of him here. And she doesn't. Did she? So let's say no. So she never answers it. They just object her to death.
Mm-hmm.
Death by 10,000 objections. And Treece has to segue, and he goes, "All right, we'll address that as we move along." And I think that's relevant here. The witness needs to answer that question, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Miss Dembrowski, what is your educational background?
High school.
As in Miramel High School? Do you have any formal education in production? As in,
As in college or school? No.
and what is your role at Infinitum Nihil? What's your official title?
President.
And what are your duties as president?
It's oversee, with others, oversee projects, ideas, development, then going into production.
Boy, I would love to sit in on an Infinitum Nihil pitch meeting. I would love, it's just Depp just being, 3 hours late, and then he picks whatever Paul Bettany can be on, and that's it, and then leaves. What type of projects? What type of projects have you worked on, so I can get an understanding for what you're talking about when you say projects?
I've worked on many projects over the many number of years, whether it's developing a book a book into, a script for a film. There's many.
Uh, are all of those projects that you involve your brother, Mr. Depp, in a talent capacity? That is, as an actor, performer, something along those lines?
Not necessarily, no. They were projects that, they were developed. If there was something in it, a role in it for him that he liked that worked, then that was fine. But otherwise, it was for, other talent as well. Not
I would love to see the projects that he's not in.
specifically for him.
I would love to see um, where he's just not, because they got so little off the ground with that access. And he was supposed to produce like a reality show for Doug Stanhope that never happened. Just like a lot of shit but that's why I say that, like, he has no excuse to do a bad movie. He is a
Hmm.
shot caller. And if you're not canceled when you have a production company and you're making your own shit. There's no Warner Brothers or Disney. It doesn't matter. Make your own fucking movie. Either you're not interested artistically, you're completely checked out if you don't do that, because you have, and especially back then. Okay, what's Infinite Nile's relationship with Disney now? Well, let me ask you this: does Infinitum Nile have a relationship with Disney?
At the moment,
Well, um, and then it says vague, and
objection.
then
I
okay,
don't
yeah.
understand. In what capacity are you asking?
Did Infinitum Nile have a Walt Disney Studio deal through May of 2017? Do you know?
Infinitum had uh, a first look deal with Disney.
And what is the first look deal you're referring to?
A first look deal is when you take potential projects to the studio and keep going.
They have the
I got to finish the sentence. They
okay.
have the first opportunity to get involved in the project, or we're able to take it elsewhere.
I see. And what projects would that refer to? Is that specific project of a multitude of projects?
It would it would it would not be just a specific project. It would be projects that we were interested in developing.
Do you recall how long Infinitum I think is that you see, Treece has a problem with this guy is William and Mary trained law school, where Bruce Hornsby filmed the video, Old Valley Road. He can't pronounce it. I think is how you pronounce it. Niall had a first look with Disney.
I don't recall the exact number of years. I believe it. I believe it to be maybe. I don't recall the exact number of years. Maybe around 4. I don't know.
All right, Mr. Dembrowski, can you describe to me your relationship with Mr. Depp during the time he was dating Amber Heard?
That's a very broad question. He's my brother, and we work together as well.
Well, that's about broads, isn't it? All right. And how would you describe your relationship? Did you all get along really well? That type of thing is what I'm looking for here. So you can describe for me in whatever you think accurately summarizes your relationship with your brother Johnny at the time he and Amber were dating.
I think we had a good relationship.
Were you aware of any issues that your brother had during the time he was dating Miss Heard? Oh, strike that. I'll refrain. During the time Johnny was dating Miss Heard, were you aware that he was using drugs or the alcohol?
I understood, yes, that he had been.
Did you ever conclude that your brother had an issue with drugs and alcohol?
At one point, yes.
At one point. One point meaning 35 years. At which one point did you conclude that he had problems with drugs or alcohol?
I don't recall exactly, but what I do recall was there was one prescription medication that he had been taking for quite some time.
And what prescription medication is that?
I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't recall the exact.
Did you ever become aware that Mr. Depp was using cocaine?
I had never seen him use cocaine ever, so.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an exhibit that's marked Exhibit 3. We're going to come back to 2 in a moment. This Exhibit 3 was marked and identification is attached to the transcript. Counsel, where am I here? Treece. Downloading it now would enable her to review it on her own, I believe. So if we're to be preferable, that would be okay by me. I can also show it to you on the screen here. You say your witness.
You're first.
I am?
Yes.
No, I'm not Hickox. I'm not going to even.
Oh, that's her lawyer. Okay. Okay. She says, okay, Christy, do you see in the notes the chat function, the ability to download the document?
Oh, I would have read that. I was kind of skipping it. All right, go ahead.
Well, she answers it. So I see in the chat.
Yeah, if you click on the chat, you should see something called CD Exhibit 3. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. If you click on it, you should be able to download it. That way you can review things natively on your computer.
Okay.
Mr. Treece, you may want to direct to certain pages or messages. You can review the entire document if you want. You'd like to do so, and you need to do it before responding to any questions.
Okay, so I just click on the download. Oh, Lord.
Yes. And Mr. Dembrowski, let me know when you've been able to download and open that on your little Commodore 64 over there.
Okay, I think I've done it. I think I've downloaded it.
All right, thank you. Can take a moment to review Ep.152. That's the Bates number in the bottom right through 17943.
I'm sorry.
Can you take a moment to review the Bates numbered range? 17940 to 17943, and let me know when you've finished.
I'm assuming you're meaning what I just downloaded, review it?
Correct. If you scroll down on what you just downloaded,
Uh-huh.
at the bottom right of each page, there will be a page number for, lack of a better term, we call them Bates numbers, and it's a page number reference. It's 17940 to 43. It's the color versions of text messages.
Okay.
It's just for the first 4 pages, Christy. I'm going to walk you through this. I don't know if it helps, but I want you to get an understanding of what's in here. But we'll go through it generally. My question for you is this. Do you recall this text chain? Do you recall this text chain here? Let me go down to witness.
Can I finish reading it?
Once I want to just tell everybody, this is only for the nerds of this trial. I'm about to say, so we're at the top of 33. I'm going to go to the chat in a second. I just want to give a break. Just give us a break. Does anybody remember Kathleen Zellner? She's apparently the host or producer of something called Making of a Murderer on Netflix. And they made a really big ballyhoo out of her being in this trial. And she was going to be on Depp's team. And cut to Fairfax in April and May, and she's just nowhere to be found. She is in these depositions, and she just kind of hung out, and she got paid on the team, and she was like Sarah, you remember all the articles that were put out? But she's here consulting. Isn't that the greatest gig, by the way? Consulting on this.
Well, you get to a level eventually in your career, of course. She did with Making a Murderer, where she can do that. So good for her.
You know who's at that level?
Not me.
John O'Reilly. Yeah, the trick is to signal the witness. Okay, I read that right. Here's some inside baseball with Mel Allen and Johnny Bench. Transcripts are charged by the page. Huh. Thank you, John. Look at those margins and line spacing. Probably double the number of pages. Well, I actually made it bigger, John, because I'm blind. But I see what you mean. No, it doesn't have anything to do with it, right? Me and Hanson.
No, you didn't change the margins.
JOR coming through again. I did not know that, John. That's great stuff. That is inside baseball, right? With the baseball bunch and the San Diego chicken. Did you ever watch the baseball bunch, Sarah?
No.
For any Generation X kid of the 80s, that was a staple on Saturday mornings. It came on after my cartoons. So it would be like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends would end the morning, and then that would come on NBC before the game of the week. And sometimes they'd have a doubleheader, and it was Costas and Kubek, and then obviously Vince Scully and Joe Garagiola. And it was a glorious time for Major League Baseball. It was the best, I believe, the best production national Major League Baseball has ever had. And the music, everything. It was really an event. Cut the lawn and then watch the doubleheader. And that's how I became a California Angels fan. And Rod Carew and Josh Foster. Hope Monster. Let me just go through the chat here. Sarah's deadpan reading is an excellent foil to Arm's pseudo-British character. Yeah, I agree, Roots. I was thinking that too, Sarah. You really are nailing it with who are you more comfortable playing? A lot of people want to know.
I don't
Tracy
care.
Jacobs or Christi Dembrowski?
It's all the same. I don't care.
Nah, man, she's exact. I remember when she first came on the trial, and I was like, "That's fucking Sarah."
Put it in front of me. I'll read it. I may not be great at it, but I'll read it.
When Christy hit the stand, it was like, "That's Sarah." It was crazy. You sounded just like her. It was
with the stammering, yeah.
Yeah, but a lot more going on in your head than I think people realize.
Well, that's true, but I just can't communicate it very well.
Look at Johnny Meyer trying to get a role in this. it's a non-SAG role, Johnny, because you need to have one. I agree, Johnny. I think
I'm not paying dues or you. What's the minimal scale? I'm not paying even scale, so I'm sorry. I apologize.
Gonna. Should we invite Johnny on to do
no.
the
Let's get
I guess
this.
we can. I'll just. I don't want to. Johnny, you know what? Next time, definitely, please agree to it. I don't want to disrupt the. I would send you. I wouldn't mind another person, just to get people involved, but it's annoying. Camille's so annoying. I'll just read the other broad, and that'll be fine. I'll just do it like in a very breathy kind of quick thing, just to get it over with. But Johnny's right. I can't wait to go back to this next time. We'll get a third person. People think I'm the person with Shaq. People think Shaq and I are the same person all the time. It's annoying. A lot of the parents are naming kids Shaquille now. Have you noticed that?
No.
Like NBA fans. That's how old we're getting, is that they're naming kids Kobe and Shaq.
The Kobe thing, yes, because that's the craze right now, and especially 3 years ago to do that. But I've never heard Shaquille O'Neal. having a
swear to you,
kid
if
named
I had a
after
kid,
him.
I would name him Wayman after Tisdale, and people would be like, "What is it?" And I'd go in the bank, we'd get him all sorts of. I mean, how many Waymans do you know besides Tisdale?
Only the great Sacramento Kings player who
We
we trounced by 30 points February of 1992.
You got to see live as a King, and I never got that pleasure.
Yeah, I didn't even know. I didn't even care.
I saw him on Indiana, and he never came out of the locker room, and
I
was
was there for Clyde
crestfallen.
Drexler. That's all I cared about.
He's supposed to be like the greatest guy in the world, and for some reason, the game that I saw him at Madison Square Garden, we're running around like before, talking to Greg Gumbel and John Andres, and I was waiting for Tisdale to come out. He's the only pacer that never came out. He was getting like taped up in the back or something, and I just sat there like, oh, I was so annoyed. I could have cared less about anybody else. I like Vern Fleming. Chuck Person blew us off. I hate him for the rest of my life. That's the thing that's like DiCaprio. Remember we played that clip of him in the street blowing off the
Mhm.
fans? That's kind of what Chuck Person did to us. We're 14, Sarah. We're 14 years old. Could
They
you
don't
imagine?
care.
Oh, fuck him. I had a Chuck Person jersey. Good guy. I hated him for the rest of my life, and I still do to this day. That's what I think it's like that's what makes Depp great. That's my favorite thing about him is he just gives every fan the ultimate one-on-one, experience, and for the rest of their lives they'll go on and tell that story.
Mhm.
That's why I hate DiCaprio, Johnny Meyer. That's one of the reasons I hate him. And Johnny Meyer got the same experience I did on the film he worked on, J. Edgar, and he said that Army Hammer was the opposite. He was like a great guy. A Shakespearean accent. Yeah, that's supposed to be like Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets William Daniels, the great William Daniels, who's from Brooklyn, and he has a Shakespearean accent.
If you
Uh,
weren't doing a podcast about Johnny Depp, you would be doing a podcast about Mr. Feeney.
I think I love that guy. I don't know why. I thought he deserved like several Emmys as on that show. Really, like that's the teacher who cares and you wish you had, and he's teaching all these lessons. That monologue he has walking out on the kids that I play in the end of this is great. It's spine chilling. He
Mhm.
tells them to sit. It's true. Have you ever seen a teacher walk out on the class after? It's always the kids
I
that
think
run
they
out.
do it nowadays more than ever.
You're probably right. With their head buried in the phone. TWIB notes, Rude's Ghost. Yes. TWIB stands for This Week in Baseball, Sarah, for the
Okay.
uninitiated. Those Saturday morning shows were the best. The only way you could learn about teams outside your market. He's so right. He's so right, JOR. That's how I became an Angels fan. There was no national baseball at that time. Like it was only localized. The only way you could watch a team outside your market was NBC's Game of the Week or the Atlanta Braves on TBS. I'm surprised the Braves don't have more national. And before wrestling, Sarah, my perfect Saturday evening, afternoon, Atlanta Braves segueing into NWA Georgia Championship Wrestling at 6:05, and with steak in the background, with marinade. My father on the barbecue in the background. You would have the smell of what the hell did we have back then? Was it sirloin or probably from Costco? And the smoke finger luring you in like and I would eat really fast during commercial and come back.
They
Three-eyed
have
catfish.
Costco in the 50s.
I get it. I get it. I'm so old. Generate that Costco hadn't been. I get it.
After this, let's get back to this.
Three-eyed catfish says Depp asked Mrs. Elner to represent him. Yeah, because he was watching. Remember, we heard him watching it on the
Mhm.
audio. Kathleen Zellner, but there was a scheduling conflict for one of her existing cases. I didn't know that. Three-eyed. Thank you. But she said she would consult. I would just make it up an excuse just so I could be a consultant. And was asked if needed. She made a statement after the trial. We played an
We
interview with
played
her.
that. Mhm.
I was half joking about it. John, seriously, I could totally use you in this, playing the other roles. If someone wants to play Camille, just objecting, you're welcome to do it. I don't feel like it because it's so tedious. But Barbara DeRush, welcome, Babs. And I will just go through these. And Judy Tanunu, name your kid Johnny. Yeah, I mean, my father's
Johnny
name is John.
Conrad.
Johnny Conrad. I was in my 30s when I first realized in order to be called the second or the third, you actually had to have the same middle name as your father.
That's true, yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So Depp's father, I guess Christopher is actually his last name, because he's the second. And
Right.
Does Jack have Christopher as his middle name? Because Jack is John. Jack and John are the same name. I didn't realize that either until my psychologist told me that. He goes, "Hey, John, Jack McGarry." I'm like, "What?" It says John over here. It's like Jack and John are the same name. Like, I didn't know. That's weird. It's like Dick and Richard. It's stupid. It's one of the dumb things we do in the English language. Here we go. Okay, we're top page 9.
To take the chat down.
You run a tight ship, Sarah. You were fucking
And
intimidating.
what did we talk about before the show? I said, just make sure you keep the chat down when we're
All
doing
right.
this.
Yeah, Johnny Myers intimidated by you. Says you're fucking intimidating. Top 33.
Let's go down to the highlighted part.
I'll say certainly. Certainly.
I don't. I'm sorry. I read it.
Do you recall this text chain?
I don't know that I specifically recall.
All right. Well, we'll walk you through this, and if you can, I can refresh your recollection. Is this a text chain between you and Amber Heard on March 22nd, 2013?
Yes.
I see.
Sorry.
Just join and down. Scroll. Here's Treece again. And the first text in the chain. Do you see the text from Amber Heard that says, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to do"?
Yes.
And then you respond with 2 texts there, the second of which says, "It said, I'm sorry, you guys are going through this. Do you see that?"
Yes.
Do you recall what that refers to?
No.
All right. Are you aware that Keith Richards and who he is, and there was a Keith Richards documentary on or around March 2013 and somewhere in that time frame?
I'm aware of the Keith Richards documentary.
And are you aware of any issues that arose in the connection with the Keith Richards documentary? Sorry, it doesn't scroll that well sometimes. It's prickly. The documents, when you scroll, it doesn't go.
I'm sorry. Could you ask again?
Yes. Why don't we do it like this? All right. If you take a look at the second blue box on 17940, do you see where Amber says, "I don't know what you could do. He's upset, and there's nothing I can do to reason with him. He's another person when he's like this. He's fueled up on booze and coke." Do you see that?
Yes.
Do you remember Miss Heard talking to you about Mr. Depp being another person when he's fueled up on booze and coke?
I remember her saying these things. Yes.
And did you talk to her about those things?
We spoke occasionally when she would bring it up. Yes.
Were you aware that Johnny and Amber would get into, fights, arguments, and then Amber might reach out to you and try to address that about her brother, with your brother, excuse me?
I don't know what. I mean, it always seemed a little dramatic. You know what I mean? So with Amber, so I don't know how often she reached out or whatever, during that time.
Are you saying she had a histrionic personality disorder, which I agree with, even though she's my client?
Don't add
All right,
things.
we'll see. Let's get her back to the text chain then. She goes on to say, "And he believes we're fighting. No one is fighting him. He's just gone, and this is the 4th time this week. Do you see that?"
Yes.
And she is referring to the 4th time this week that he's been fueled up on booze and coke. Correct. What's crazy is, according to Bruce Witkin, and maybe this comes up later, he had absolutely, and I remember him saying this in many interviews I've read, 0.0 interest in cocaine until his fucking 40s, late 40s, early 50s. Isn't that crazy? Imagine starting that shit at that age. I always thought it was like a death sentence, like it was like an instant heart attack.
Yeah.
That's the way I was raised, thinking that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is Tom Hansen. You spent a career busting people for dealing coke and marijuana.
No, nobody
now
was dealing coke on 21 Jump Street. It was
Yes, they were.
marijuana.
No, it was cocaine all the time.
Maybe the later seasons cocaine.
Okay,
I don't know what she's referring to be honest.
At the time you received this text, do you recall discussing this issue with her?
At the time I received this text, is what you asked me?
Or at around the time you received this text, did you talk to Miss Heard about the issues she outlines in the box we're reviewing here?
I don't recall if I talked to her.
All right, I think we'll get to that as we move along. Miss Heard goes on to tell you now the only time we have this kind of fight is when that combo is in action. Do you see that?
Yes.
And she's letting you know that the only time they really fight is when Johnny is consuming drugs or alcohol. Is that true? And then Vasquez, bullshit. You can keep your speaking objections to yourself, Miss Vasquez. You can log the specific objections, but please refrain from speaking objections here.
Okay, I'm sorry. Would you repeat your question again?
So Amber is telling you that the only time they really fight is when Johnny is under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Is that correct? And as you can see here, Kathleen Zellner joins the deposition. There she is. There she is. Mr. Catfish. And I had not seen her in any way, shape until here. This is the first time her name is read. The articles we read. Do you still need to answer that though, Miss?
Yes, I will. I think personally she liked to use that a lot. She just would say it.
So she would tell you a lot that the only time they had fights is when Johnny's under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
It's not that she would tell me a lot. It felt like that's, it was basically, her reasoning, but it wasn't necessarily so.
And do you have any personal knowledge to rebut the assertion that the only time we have this kind of fight is when the combo is in action, referring to drugs and alcohol?
Well, you reference that kind of fight, so I don't know what that means. But excuse me, I do know that, there were, disagreements that had nothing to do with that. So,
And what were those?
I don't recall all of those.
All right. And then she goes on to say he finds something to jump on and then uses it as an excuse to dose himself. I didn't know what dose meant, Sarah, until that Red Hot Chili Pepper song. That's my favorite Chili Pepper song. I really didn't know what it was. I had to look out. I had to ask my drug friends, which is where he is now, wasted. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then she goes on to say, I just want to help you. I just want to have him back. Do you see that?
Yes.
And she conveyed to you that she was having issues with Johnny during this week where he was on drugs and alcohol and they were having a fight because of his use of drugs and alcohol, correct? Well, don't worry about it, Sarah. It's my fault. I'm just trying to scroll. Do not feel any pressure. There you go. Very vague.
There was an objection about it being vague. And then I say, very vague. I don't know that she states to me what their reason for the argument was. So,
all right. If you'll turn to page 17941, that's the next page. Do you see the text from you to Miss Heard that says, I'm not sure of the volume or when is some likely to wear off? Do you see that?
yes.
Witness. Okay. And what does that refer to?
I'm not exactly sure the volume of the argument. Okay.
Does that refer to Coke and alcohol?
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
This is a text that you sent, correct?
Yeah.
This is a text that, and just so it's clear on the record, this is a text that you sent to Amber, correct?
Yes.
And this is a text that you sent her in response to her telling her that you and Johnny were fueled up on booze and Coke, correct?
This is a text that actually speaks about their arguing. So,
all right. Well, then, do you know if this text refers to trying to get Johnny to do the Keith Richards documentary set and having difficulties because he's fueled up again on Coke and booze?
I don't recall the timing.
Do you have any recollection of what this refers to?
I honestly don't recall the timing.
And then, do you see the text chain? There's a number of text on the page where we're just one at the bottom saying he's slowly getting moving. And then later, about 3 hours later, the first text is sent. It says, we're finally on our way. Do you see that one?
Yes.
And then do you see on 17942 the text from you saying, was just hoping all is calm for you guys?
Yes.
Do you know what that refers to?
I believe I was hoping that their argument was over.
And do you know what precipitated that argument?
No,
Do you recall having any discussion with your brother about an argument he had with Amber on around March 22nd, 2013?
I don't recall.
And if you'll turn to 17943, let me ask you before we focus on 17943 before March 22nd, 2013. Do you recall having any discussions with your brother about the need to get sober?
Yes,
And then you say, I don't recall on 48.
I don't recall.
And if you take a look at 17943, do you see at the top where it says we can get back to the good moments together?
Yes,
Do you know if that refers to you and Amber working to help Johnny get sober?
I don't recall.
Do you recall having any discussions prior to March 22nd, 2013 with Miss Heard about Amber and Johnny fighting? Under Hickox. That's all it is I don't know.
I don't recall.
Do you recall having any discussions prior to March 22nd, 2013 with Miss Heard about Amber and Johnny fighting?
Do I recall conversations with her about them fighting?
Correct. Before March 22nd, 2013.
I don't recall.
Do you recall any discussions with your brother Johnny prior to March 22nd about Amber and Johnny fighting?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you ever recall having a conversation with your brother Johnny about fights he was having with Amber Heard?
Ever over the course of their time together?
Correct.
We occasionally had conversations about arguments, you know,
What's the
drama.
yes? What's the first conversation that you can recall? In other words, you reference conversations about arguments, and I want to know the first one that you can recall.
I don't recall.
Do you recall? Do you recall?
This.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, I don't recall specifics. I don't recall the first one. I don't recall specifics right at the moment.
Do you recall any discussion with your brother, specifics that you had with your brother about any arguments or fights that he and Amber Heard may have been in?
I don't specifically that I recall. I mean, we had conversations, brother and sister, where, you know, I felt it sad, you know, that if there seemed to be constant, you know, drama or arguments.
What I'm trying to do is this. Yeah, I'm trying to get your recollection of those conversations you might have had with your brother about those issues that he might have had with Amber. And do you? I'm trying to understand from you the specifics of what you might recall. Can you provide me with any specifics of any conversation that you can recall with your brother about arguments that he might have had with Miss Heard?
No, I don't. I don't recall specifics.
No, same question with respect to Miss Heard. Do you recall specifics of any conversation that you had with Miss Heard relating to any argument that she might have had with Johnny?
I don't recall all specifics of conversations from a long time ago.
Right. And what I'm trying to get from you is this. I would imagine that there are certain events and issues between Amber and Johnny that would stand out in your mind. And I'm trying to understand if you had discussions with either of them about this particular events that might stand out in your mind. Does that help you?
Yeah, I suppose.
Apathetic Christie, I love it. You're doing a great job rolling your eyes, Sarah, because you at this point she would be getting annoyed, right? And
Well, I'm annoyed because I'm hungry right now, so
all
I'll
right,
stick with this mood.
this is a slightly shorter Deppening, if it helps at all, because of the radio gunk
This is the
main
pregame.
event. All right, so with that in mind, is there any specific, event or events that you recall being involved with, either the discussions with Amber or discussions with Johnny, to try to figure out what happened, or you may have helped with? Now go down to.
Again, you know, I don't really recall specifics necessarily. You know,
All right, all right. Well, we'll walk you through some events as we move along, but maybe that will help you with your recollection. All right, and we can go ahead and take a quick break. Let's go off the record here. So they go down. We'll go to the chat for a second. So, Let me see. Let me just go to the spot. Mr. Dembrowski, I'm going to show. Oh, so they do skip it, and they start right back in. We're on page 54, and I start back up with Miss Dembrowski right after videographer. Okay. You see that?
Yes.
You see that? You see that? You see that? There's Judy Tenunu. Welcome, Judy Tenunu. He was. Everyone's going crazy over here. Thank you for joining us. You are a regular staple in the rotation now. We trust you. Your pop culture knowledge, your passion. You are in, sir. You are in. Crack that whip,
Oh, by
says
the way,
Devo.
thank you for the Venmo. Appreciate it.
What am I missing?
Got a Venmo. You're not gonna. It's not gonna come up on the screen when you get a Venmo.
Yeah, that's what Christie did to Johnny during the Infinite Nile scandal. Maybe the Coke was a response to Thompson's passing. That's true, Kala. When in doubt in the world of Depp, use Hunter S. Thompson as an excuse or a shield to do whatever you want. Rude's ghost. Fenty. Yes, it did. Ruined everything. Can't even have a cake. And hose
Coke.
weekend. Oh, I thought you know how bad my eyes are.
I know.
Can't
I'm here
even
to
have
read
Coke
properly
and
for
hose
you.
weekend these days. Rude's ghost. From recollection, this deposition testimony is pretty close to the Dembrowski testimony. It is pretty close, but there's something to go off, and there's some differences. I mean, I knew that there was going to be some similarities, but you're never going to get away from drugs and alcohol and beating that to death. Thank you, Judy. You rule as well, sir. I want to go on against you. Yeah, there's a tons of opportunity for him to come on again. I don't know what the next one's going to be. Jesus, so much. Well, I talked about Medusa 1 and her Amber stance. That's different. Obviously, would you do it if that wasn't in it? There was so many ideas coming up. There was another big one. But don't rule out Jump Street, Judy Tenunu. Don't rule out Jump Street. I had a thought about the Hollywood vampires, and okay. What do you think about this? I'm very proud of myself with this thought in the shower yesterday. Great, another great comment by me. You know, talking to Patrick Hasberg about Depp's, because addictions come up here so much, and this is for the chat as well, if you want to digest this. What do you think that 21 Jump Street and its schedule and regiment and discipline of TV and films saved Depp's life?
I'm sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me elaborate a little more.
Consistency
Yeah.
from having a schedule. Yeah.
So let's say he fulfills his dream of becoming a rock star in the early 20s. Okay? There's no Jump Street, there's no movies, there's no anything. With his predilections for addiction and such, and let's say they don't make it to the 90s when the grunge movement might have slapped them back, right? The grunge movement killed so much. They might have been one of them. Let's say that happens. If he's on this scatological kind of rock star life, insouciant, inject, party, drugs, drink. What do you say he doesn't make it to age 30?
If that had happened, sadly, I wouldn't have been surprised.
What if? We wouldn't know who he was. I don't think I would even know the band.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Well, it's like James Dean. Had James Dean lived until he was 85, he wouldn't have been. Death made him a legend, right?
Yep. So when he tries to get away from these things, Jump Street was holding back. What a piece of shit! I don't want to get off it. Oh God, movies. I can't. I don't want to do them anymore. And I'm turning my back on Hollywood. Bullshit. That not only gave you the access to even do this. Do you really think Alice Cooper and Joe Perry would have a fucking thing to do with him if he wasn't famous first from acting? You
No.
really think they'd fucking give him the time, wipe his ass with a do-rag? You really think they'd have anything to do with him?
Mm-hmm.
That they would say that he's on their level musically and blah, blah, blah.
No.
So the discipline and production schedule and consistency of being in a movie when you have to be accountable and be there and be on, I believe has kept him alive this long to age 60. If he was able to fulfill that rock star fantasy, he'd be dead.
I agree with that.
I'm betting on it, knowing what we know, despite his
The
constitution.
Sid Vicious like,
Yeah.
ending.
Do you agree with me, chat, on that? You don't have to agree just because I'm passionately thought this out.
No, it's your show. We all agree with you.
No, you don't have to agree with it. I don't see him making it to age 30. If he's that runaway, just substance, just prone to all sorts of every type of addiction and high, to be on a rock star schedule where the whole name of the game, it's part of the goddamn plan, right? It's part of the deal. Drugs, the fuel and the lifestyle, and there's no way he's making it to age 30.
Agreed.
If we've seen what to be. He's on major movie production schedule and still is getting wasted and high and drunk to the tune of, it's crazy, with bodyguards and keepers around you and all these people keeping you afloat and dotting your I's. There's no way he's making it to age 30.
You can look at it the other way though too. If he's a musician, he wouldn't have nearly the amount of money he has now, or
Right.
made from his movies.
They
So
wouldn't have
maybe he
access to these
wouldn't be
people.
as self-destructive.
That's true. That's a good counter, but I think he would find a way to get. Let's say that they were just moderately successful on the level of like a. Ready for this reference? Tesla.
No.
Remember Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And you don't mean
modern
the
day
car.
cowboy. No, I mean the band.
I know.
They're like that, right? Like, or one of these bridge. How about Guns N' Roses? Like a little
Mhm.
less than that. Like if they were like, because they're interwoven into that scene and the metal rock scene of L.A. in the '80s. So it's like L.A. Guns and Guns N' Roses and stuff. Let's say that they're L.A. Guns, which are a less successful Guns N' Roses.
Mhm.
And he was in a 6 Gun Method and shit. Rock City. It all sounds the same, right?
I picture him in what's that documentary? Oh my God, where the guy's floating in the pool and he later died of like alcoholism.
I
It's a
forgot.
rock documentary. Oh God,
Somebody will get it in the chat.
something about the end of the world or something. Part 2. You guys know what I'm talking about. But I
Judy
just
Tenu-
picture him being in some documentary, floating in a pool, you know, pool of excess basically, and
Okay.
dying.
Yeah. Judy Tenunu agrees. Depp lives on the edge and the movies kept him busy. Now, what happens, Sarah, if that rock genre gets destroyed by Kurt Cobain and Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell? Doesn't that send him more
Oh,
into a spiral of depression? And
yes. Thank you, Judy Tenuta. Decline of Western civilization too. Thank you.
he
I
knows.
was so
God,
off.
Judy's great. You and him, by the way, kindred spirits. Talking grunge?
I think he's much younger than me.
Not really. He might be older than you, actually.
Oh, all right. He
I
doesn't
think he's
sound
got
it.
you by 3 years.
Okay. Good. I feel better about
I think
myself.
he's got you by 3 years. He says, "Yep, Depp lives on the edge, and the movies kept him busy." That's my theory. Musicians on the road wears the people out. Johnny Meyer says, "Did JD ever get asked under oath when he first tried blow? I'd like to know the history with it." Well, I mean, I know the history with it. He claims he tried it in the early days of Florida in his late teens, on those, touring with the kids and stuff. Not touring, but kind of driving around South Florida. So it was there. He said he hated it, according to Bruce Witkin, and they never did it again until. And there's no way he didn't dip into it in the Viper Room at some point, but he claims he hated it and didn't go back to it officially until. How about Joe Perry, Sarah, at that age? Because Witkin said Joe Perry, who was, Aerosmith has this thing that they're sober for years and years and years, and he blew up Joe Perry's spot. That's so funny that he was doing coke with Joe Perry during every break. And like Aerosmith is famously sober. Steven Tyler and Joe Perry's brag about how sober they are, and Bruce Witkin blew up their spot. That's so
If
great.
you've ever seen Steven Tyler's feet, how could you be, if you're Steven
I don't
Tyler,
know.
how could you be sober after looking down at your feet when they look like that? Google it,
Yeah, I
please. It's
said, yeah,
disgusting.
Kathy. I said age. He's not making it to 30. I might give him 35 at best, but he's not making it to 30. There's my assertion. We could all differ on it, but I'm going with he's not making it to 30. At the most 35. Johnny Meyer says, I'm sure he tried it in the 80s. Yep, did it for a while. Jump Street basically stayed away. Yeah, when you're on a television series, the grind of that show, and especially if he were Holly Robinson, like knowing what we know now when we watch the show back, if he were Holly Robinson or Dustin Gwen, he could easily do drugs. They're never. What would it take you to film their scenes in a week?
Mm-hmm.
The last one we watched, the McAdes
What would
brothers,
it take? You're talking about time?
to film Holly Robinson and Dustin Gwen's role on the last
Mm-hmm.
episode we watched. What would that take in a week?
You're talking about time.
Time.
I don't know. It depends on how many takes, but
A
I'm sure
half a
probably
day?
a day.
Half a day?
Mm-hmm. If you show up in the episode, though, even for 2 seconds, you get paid. So who cares?
So what do you do with the rest of your week?
You go hang out in your trailer and
Right.
you bang Jason Priestley.
And that kept Depp alive because he was the focal point of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Because there were times that he vanished. Believe me, I ain't happy about it. He had little sabbaticals throughout the series, but basically season 2 and even season 3, which they tried to bring Greco in to make him sweat, but he's still the focal point. Season 1, obviously, too. So season 4, they get back to it. He disappears in season 4 and does Scissorhands, and there's like 4 and 5 episode periods where he's got. But anyway, the regiment of that show, I believe, kept him alive. I'm positive of it. And I will pose that to Patrick Hasberg. Hunter S. Thompson befriended him. Yep, that's true. When you're around Thompson, I don't know if Thompson was doing coke per se when he was hanging out with him. I can't see Thompson's age, even with that constitution. Still going. Not to my knowledge. I hope he didn't, but it's certainly possible. Eddie Vedder stayed away from drugs in the 90s.
Only Eddie Vedder stayed away from drugs in the 90s. He was an alcoholic. I think he would admit that. I think he did admit that.
Does anybody make rock star icon look better than him?
No. Overall, well, he did marry a model, so I'll never forgive him for that. And he went on Howard Stern.
Well, look at the permeation of his how many years this has been going. Same, the same marriage. He's got a kid. Drinks socially like it's nothing. There's no problems. There's no addictions. There's nothing. There's no drugs. He's got good friends. He looks good. He sounds good. He's respected at the highest. Like, could you have made it look? They're still together. He's still close with everyone in his band. There's no bullshit. Could you make it look any better than he does?
No,
Nobody
I
makes that look
admire him
better.
greatly. He's the last of my Seattle heroes. You have to admire him.
That's who I wanted to see Depp, but they sound the same and tour with, befriended instead of Manson. Jim Morrison provides an analogy for Depp's life. Yes, he does, JOR. And Sara.
Yeah, that's a good point. He easily could have slipped into that Lizard King persona.
So what JOR is saying, what John O'Reilly is saying is Jim Morrison's death at 27, that magical number could very well be Depp if he doesn't have movies.
The definition of excess was Jim Morrison. So much so, he had the body of probably a 70-year-old at the age of 27.
And you, ma'am, have the body of Beatrice Arthur in season 5 of The Golden Girls, which is a huge compliment.
Okay.
John, that's really good. I think Depp is obsessed with that age 27 thing too. So that's not ridiculous that he would go the way of the 27-year-old, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix. Who am I forgetting?
There are probably a dozen more.
I don't want to go to rehab. Amy Winehouse, 27.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few more. I know I'm forgetting some, and I apologize.
She was murdered, but I think Mia Zapata was 27. You have no idea who I'm talking about, do you?
No, I was looking at B. Arthur in a bikini, says Johnny Moore.
Yeah, I do. Probably in a bikini, I probably look similar.
When did Vedder get divorced? Sarah, Judy Tenuta reminds us.
Mid-90s. His first wife was Beth Liebling or Liebling. If you go back to Saturday Night Live, when they were promoting the oh my God, he sang "Not for You." And he goes, "Me and Beth." That's his reference to his wife.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. So what is that? 93 when he did it with they did it twice. They did it
There's
in
a
the
lyric that says, "Oh, this table seats just two, me and Beth."
they did Saturday Night Live in the 90 I think the 91 92 season and then the 92 93 season and
Yeah,
they
if
did
it
it
was not for
twice.
you, it would be the 93 probably.
And I think Nirvana did the same. I think it's the same
Yeah,
exact trajectory.
92 Nirvana, 92? Yeah. Kurt had
The,
red hair and he was high on heroin.
well, they did it with Barkley too. Barkley
Yep.
hosted in the 93 94 season. I'm going to look for that. I'm going to look for that.
Mhm.
Thank you, Judy. So Western Civilization 2. Like when did that come out? What's that about?
It's just a rock documentary
And
about
who
the
does it
80s, about the
Okay.
late 80s rock bands.
Yeah, Judy, the Sunset Strip was deadly back then. I know, it was crazy. Motley Crue, everything comes out of there. Everything comes out of there. There's a ton of documentaries on, and Depp is mentioned in it too, by the way, a few times. I think because of the Viper Room, not because he was there, which he was, but because who could tell you about it is Lori Allison.
Mhm.
She couldn't have been more firmly in that scene with them. Personal anecdote: I saw Pete Townsend punch out Jim Morrison on stage when Morrison wouldn't get off after they opened for the Who.
Knowing what we know now about Pete Townsend, or what we suspect, Jim Morrison was 10 times the human being Pete Townsend was.
Who had the hotel room next to Depp in the Mark Hotel in
Pete
1994?
Townsend, the
Yes.
snitch. Why would you draw attention when it's possible? Why would you draw attention to yourself by reporting somebody when it's possible you have something on your computer that you shouldn't have?
Why are no interviewers asking him about that?
Nah, I
Townsend,
don't
like, why
know.
is no one asking him about that?
He's got some kind of power. I don't know.
I would, if I ever interviewed Pete Townsend, I would talk to him about nothing but that. I would never get off the topic. I would
And that's
stay on
Eddie
it the whole
Vedder's
time.
hero too, Pete Townsend.
Oh, is he really?
Oh God.
Didn't he do Pinball Wizard? Did he cover
Yes.
better?
Mm-hmm. In
That is,
Teenage Wasteland. I'm not a big Who person. Is it called Teenage Wasteland, the song?
yeah.
Yes. They covered that too.
I like I like Pink Floyd a little better, but they're
I love Pink
huge.
Floyd.
Yeah, I'm not a Guitar Hero guy, but that Gilmore is I don't know who I like
Oh
more, Artist
God.
Gilmore or David Gilmore.
David, all day long.
I want to see Artist Gilmore play with Pink Floyd.
I'll
The
pass.
singer at the World's Fair, I forget the shit. So we'll get back to the Eddie Vedder. Eddie Vedder said Pete Townsend was innocent. Oh no, is he?
Of course.
Of course, that's amazing. Nobody can at least like with me and Depp, I admit about things that he does wrong. Why
Mm-hmm.
can't these guys? What is the big? We don't want to meet our heroes. It's he's not. He does
I
a lot
don't
of
know
dumb
that I
shit.
would, in real life, away from this show, I don't know that I'd want to meet Depp. I'd just be
I would.
disappointed.
I do. I do.
It's like it would be the same way meeting Trent Reznor disappointed me.
I was probably more into it years ago, but I do. He does need to get a. I need to give him the arm treatment. I need to ask him some hard hitting questions.
Oh
I'm not.
yeah,
I just.
Lauren says it's Bob O'Reilly. That's right.
Oh right. That's why everybody makes that same mistake. You always say, "Yeah, I do that all. I've been doing that for decades."
I just never cared about the
I hate
Who.
that title. He loves Bob O'Reilly better. He covers it all the time, doesn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm up here. Here we got Mr. Line 12. I'm Mr. Treece.
Oh, I need to
Miss
max screen.
Dembrowski, I'm
Take the
going to.
chat down.
Okay, hold on a second. Why am I? Okay. Uh, Miss Dembrowski, I'm going to show you what well marked is Exhibit 2 and is attached to the transcript. And I just loaded that to the chat. So let me know when you're able to open that one.
Okay.
This is a small document. It's only 2 pages, so I can actually just do this on the screen if you'd prefer it.
I have it.
All right, Mr. Dembrowski, I'll represent to you that this is a payment ledger that was produced by Depp's counsel in this case, and I want to look at some of the entries. Do you see at the top right where it says balance? And it says the date is December 31st, 2015 for that fiscal year.
Yes.
And, oh, here's his brother. Here's his brother. And I wanted to talk to you about some of these entries and inquire as to the knowledge of them. And do you see where it says Danny Depp and Nazi Manyaz Depp? Do you see that?
Yes.
Who the fuck is that?
We'll find out.
Who are they? Do you know them?
Danny's my brother.
And who is Nazi?
His wife.
Wow, I've never heard that. And I knew he was probably married. I got to know more about Danny Depp. Not in a Frank Stallone kind of way, but it's just different.
Sure.
Do you know them?
Danny's my brother.
Are they employed by Infinitum Nile?
No.
Do you see off to the right here? There's a payment of $71,000 in 2015. Do you have any knowledge of respect to that payment and what it could be referring to?
No.
All right. Then if you'll take a look at the second page of this exhibit, do you see that there's a reference to loan and this has your name there? It's roughly $3.5 million. Do you see that?
Oh, yes, I see that.
Do you know what that refers to? This is why it was taken out of the trial.
Mm-hmm. I know it refers to a ledger, is all I know.
Ah, did you ever get a loan from your brother of this time to the companies?
No, I never asked for a loan from my brother.
And that's a little bit different than the question that I asked, though.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not asking you if you asked for a loan. Did you ever get a loan from your brother or any of his companies?
No.
So is it fair to say that you don't know what this entry even refers to?
No.
All right, then. If you'll take a look down below, do you see there's a loan? It's got Infinitum, and then there's another loan for Infinitum Nile Records, and then there's another Infinitum Nile loan, and I'm scrolling and putting the hand over the references I'm referring to. Infinitum Nile Music, LLC loan, Infinitum Nile Media. Are you familiar with any of the loans with respect to Infinitum or subsidiary that are referenced in this document?
No, I'm not familiar with them specifically, no.
How much are you paid in your position at Infinitum Nile? Look at Vasquez going crazy here. No.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll take your word for that because we'll take that up later if there's any issue with that. So they're just objecting up there. They won't let her reveal her salary. It's this is why I hate Camille in these. All right, Miss Dembrowski, Johnny's your younger brother, correct?
Yes.
And do you feel protective over him?
I think as a human being, I feel protective over all my family, my children, my siblings, all my family.
And that would include, obviously, your brother Johnny.
Yes.
Are those protective feelings affecting your ability to recall events or testify fully and truthfully today?
Where are you going?
She objects, and you can answer that, Miss Dembrowski.
No.
All right, I'm going to show you what is marked at Exhibit 4. And I'm going to share that screen. Christy, I recommend downloading the native PDF file on the chat function and just review it, the entire thread.
Okay, I don't see it on the chat.
Correct. And I'm going to walk you through Exhibit 4. And if you'll take a look at the first text message at the top, is this a text message between you and Amber Heard on around March 3rd, 2014?
I'm sorry, I'm still reading it.
Oh, well, then I'm starting at the beginning. So I'm asking you if this first, and you can read as we get through this. I'm asking if this first text is a text between you and Amber Heard on March 3rd, 2014.
Okay, the lawyer's telling her to read the entire document.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
And I'm not, Ms. Dembrowski, just so you know, I'm not trying to preclude you from reviewing it. I'm actually going to review the whole thing with you. I'm trying to, efficiently review this. And I understand that, I'm probably trying to strike that. So what I want to ask is this. Is this the first text that you received from Amber on February 3rd, 2014?
What I would like to do is continue to read this so that I can
Do you need to read? Well, no, that's fine. You can read all of it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, the first text is that we're
Okay, I
looking
read
at
it. Sorry.
received from Amber on February 3rd, 2014. Camille, Camille, I'll give you a running objection to everything we do here, to all of my questions for those objections you just lodged, if you would like. Well, you hate everything, you object everything we say. We've got it. I think that would be more efficient at this point.
Back and forth banter.
Okay. Is that simple? I'll give you a running objection. Oh, this is a good exchange, actually. I wish we could. Well, it depends on you. I'll give you a running objection to all my. I said before I even read this, Sarah. This is what I said I would do if I were him. Like to her, I would have just snapped and said, that, "We got it. You object to everything. I'll give you a running objection to all my questions. You can have that, and you can have the running objection to all my questions." She goes, "So you're okay. We can take that up later if you need to. All right. So, Miss Dembrowski, do you recall my question after that tedium?
You want to repeat the question?
Yes. So, well, this is a text received from Amber on February 3rd, 2014. Correct.
Yes.
And she's telling you that she needs your help. Correct.
Yes.
And she lets you know that Johnny is on a bender with Marilyn Manson. Isn't that right?
That's what she says.
Right. And she says, once again, she believes it's about me or us fighting, even though that's what we're fighting about. I don't know what to do here. Do you see that?
Yes.
And so she's reaching out to you so that she can intervene and you can intervene and potentially in some way help him. Correct. Lacks foundation.
She's reaching out to me to talk about it. It appears that she says, "Can you help?" Yes.
And then she tells you she loves him so much, but he's going to hurt himself and take Amber and Johnny as a couple down. Isn't that right?
That's what she writes.
By the way, Sarah, this banter between Vasquez and Treece, how great would that have been in Fairfax if we got to see that?
Yeah, we kind of did.
I mean, again, I don't want to go, to do it justice with somebody else kind of doing that, but he's as annoyed as I am reading this. And I knew that would be how I would handle it. And then she says, I can't do anything to avoid how crazy he gets when he's like this. I think he's at Marilyn's Manson's house now. And the show continuing the rage and the coke and booze binge. Do you see that?
Yes.
And I realize I may have said show instead of now. So I think he's at Marilyn's now, continuing the rage and coke booze binge. Do you see that?
Yes.
And so this is at least the second time we've seen this in the deposition where Amber reaches out to you and lets you know that Johnny is in a, quote, coke and alcohol infused rage. Is that right?
She states that he's in a binge. Yes.
And I'm sorry, I lost my place here for a minute. And the prior exhibit, she also reached out to you because he was on a binge, correct?
In the
Do you
in the prior text?
correct? So this is the second time Amber has reached out to you with respect to these issues, correct?
Yes.
Ms. Vasquez, you continue to have the running objection. We got it. You object. He's perfect about everything. We got it. And again, she says, can you help? Do you see that?
Yes.
And she says he needs to come home. We have no reason to fight. He just aims all his anger at me. He's on it when he's on the alcohol and the drugs. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you understood Amber to be telling you that when he's on coke and booze, he aims all of his anger at Amber. Isn't that what she conveyed to you?
It's what she appears to say. Yes.
So this is something they don't want in the trial. This is not a great light. And then she says, "Don't you know what to do if I leave? I'm not sure we'll be able to come from this." and I don't want to leave him when he's like this, in that state. Then he just has the echoes of his own mind bouncing around in his head. It's terrible. Do you see that?
Yes.
And did you understand that Miss Heard was conveying to you that Johnny doesn't have a full grasp of reality when he's on alcohol and coke in a binge?
I can't assume exactly what she's saying in that manner that you're trying to.
What did you? Okay, I'm sorry. What did you understand her to mean when she says he's got echoes of his own mind bouncing around in his head?
I don't really understand her for it to be anything specific other than just her description.
Were you ever around Johnny when he was on alcohol and a coke binge?
I don't recall being around him.
Do you believe that, Sarah?
Probably not.
No, I don't believe it either, not in the slightest. Did you ever talk to him when he was on an alcohol or coke binge?
Again, I don't recall him being on a binge.
All right. So you respond to Amber's text above and you say, "Where are the kids?" Do you see that?
Yes.
Why did you ask where the kids are at that point?
I don't recall.
Is it because she told you that he's on a bender with Marilyn Manson in a rage and coke booze binge, and you want to make sure that the kids are not around him at that point?
I don't recall why I asked that question.
You can see why this is taken out, right? We get nothing of the sort in Fairfax. This is great stuff. This is what I hate. This is why you got to read these to get the full story. But is it fair to say that after she conveys to you that we just reviewed your first response to her was concern for the kids? Is that right?
I don't recall it being a concern like in that way for the kids.
All right. I'd like to focus you on 17945. Do you see the text that you sent to Amber stating, "Do you want to come to the office to speak to me?"
Yes.
And that's because you empathized with her, the difficulties that she was having with Johnny, and you wanted to talk to her about them to see if she could help you, correct?
I would say that because she was, reaching out, I asked if she wanted to talk.
All right. And then do you see below that she tells you he needs help? He doesn't have it under control. The coke is hard on us, on him. It makes him believe he's mad at me about everything now. Do you see that?
I see that.
And she conveyed that to you, correct?
I'm not sure I understand.
Well, let me just ask you this then. Do you agree that at the time you had this text chain that Johnny needed help with drugs and alcohol?
I don't recall. I'd have to read through it. I don't recall it.
Did you have any reason to doubt that what Amber was telling you was true and when she sent these text messages?
I just knew she wanted to talk about something, so
I mean, this is your little brother, right? So she's telling you about he's on a bender with Marilyn Manson, and you send a text about where are the kids. You offer to talk to her. She tells you he needs help. He doesn't have it under control. He gets mad at her about everything when he's on coke and gets mad about everything else, right?
I don't know.
You're right. I just knew line 6.
Oh, did you skip? Okay. I
No,
thought you
there's not.
are you skipping around?
No. Did I skip? Wait, did I miss it?
I
Hold on
don't
a second.
know.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I did. Did you have any reason to doubt what Amber was telling you was true when she sent those text messages?
Okay, repeat. I just knew she wanted to talk about something, so
I mean, this is your little brother, right? Oh, I read that. God, why am I bouncing? I'm sorry. This is bouncing around when I go scroll. It doesn't like always go down. Like it goes back to where
can you just go to the next page?
you can answer that, Miss Dembrowski.
I don't understand the question, so
All right. So at this point in time, Amber's conveying some serious concerns about the mental state and well-being of your brother, correct?
she's reaching out about a specific moment.
And you were concerned based on what she conveyed to you, correct?
I was open to being able to talk to her.
All right. And you responded saying, worry about everything. I don't love any of it. Do you see that?
Yes.
And what do you mean by that?
I don't know.
Were you worried at the time you received those text messages?
Worried about what in particular?
Well, worried about your brother.
I was worried that, I think I was just more worried that there was like a constant argument as opposed to normal life. So
Well, they're not together at this point. So, in the time she's at Marilyn Manson's, excuse me. He is at Marilyn Manson's on a bender, correct?
Um, yeah, I think she's assuming that's where he is. That's what the message is.
She tells you that's exactly where he is, correct?
She seems to state to me that she assumes he's there.
All right. And then you say, I really want to be able to talk to him. Do you see that?
Yes,
And you're referring to talking to your brother Johnny, correct?
yes.
Why did you want to talk to him at this point?
I don't recall specifically.
And then Amber responds when you say you want to talk to him, yeah, he needs it. Do you see that?
Yes,
And she's referring to him needing to talk with you, correct?
she's referring to we need to talk, it seems to me.
And then she says he's been on a 24-hour plus binge with Marilyn Manson. Do you see that? And you say, oh, I understand a lot of things these days. What does that refer to?
I don't recall.
And then she responds to you, I don't know what to do. I hate that he always aims this at me. I don't want to break up, but he's forcing it. It seems like he's trying for that. Do you see that?
Yes,
And then Amber conveyed to you that she's concerned about Johnny's welfare, correct?
I believe she said earlier in the text.
And she conveys to you that she is concerned about their relationship because he's using drugs and alcohol, correct?
I mean, she states that she's worried about the relationship.
Because of drugs and alcohol and the use of it, correct?
I don't know if it's specifically that, but
Well, we talked earlier about how she's saying that when he's on booze and coke, he gets crazy like Pat O'Brien. That the context of this text message is right. He's on a bender with Marilyn Manson doing alcohol and booze, and that's raised all these issues. Isn't that right?
to me it's her assumption that he's with Manson.
All right. And you respond to her though. You say you wouldn't be engaged if he didn't love you. Do you see that?
Yes.
So you're trying to console her and reassure her that despite whatever he might be doing, he still loves Amber. Is that correct?
So I don't know if console would be the actual word, but maybe, calm her.
All right. And then if we turn to Bates number 17947, at the top you say maybe you could be talking, you two could help him somehow. Do you see that?
Yes.
So you're offering to get involved and talk to Amber to try to help the situation somehow, correct?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question?
Yes, you offer to get involved and talk to Amber to try to help the situation. Isn't that right?
I think the situation I would try to be helpful with would be for her and I to speak so that we could have conversation.
And then she goes on to tell you he's literally just blowing lines and drinking and commiserating with Manson, who's happy to be there for his binge. He's literally been there nonstop for 24 hours. Do you see that?
Yes.
And that was conveyed to you, correct?
That's what she wrote.
And then she says he uses us fighting as an excuse for this sort of binge, like with the hotel room in London. Do you see that?
Yes.
And do you recall Johnny going on a binge in a hotel room in London?
I don't recall.
Do you recall Johnny going on a binge and passing out in the bathroom after he went on that binge with Paul Bettany and security having to knock in the door?
No, I don't recall.
She goes on to say, he's just in another, it's just another, excuse me, strike that. He's another person when he's on blow. He's in total denial about it. It makes it impossible for us to really conflict of any kind. He promised me he was done with this. And in London, he promised me, do you see that?
Yes.
And she's telling you that he's another person when he's using cocaine, correct?
She's telling me that that's her interpretation. Yes.
And did you have any experience with Johnny when he was on cocaine to draw a different conclusion?
I don't recall having spent time with him necessarily when he was on cocaine.
All right. And then on page 17948, you say, if you want to talk, I'm here. Probably better than texting. And then Amber says, yeah, I'd like to talk whenever. And then ultimately she says, I'll call you as soon as I can. Is that okay? And you say, absolutely. The main thing here is to make sure he is okay. Do you see that? And then the rest will fall into place. Do you see that?
Yes.
And so you all had this conversation following this text exchange. Did you not?
I don't recall.
I don't believe her. And then you go down.
Oh, sorry. No, that's not me.
No, that's not her. I'm sorry. I'm reading it wrong. I'm going to show you what is marked as Exhibit 5. Exhibit 5 is marked as identification or attachment.
I have it. I'm going to read it.
All right. At some point, I've got a longer document here. I'm going to show you this, and it's not necessary for you to review this in advance. I actually don't think this is either, because we can go through it. All the other option is to go off the record and allow you to review it. Then we'll come back on the record. So those are my two proposals. So why don't we go off the record, and that will allow you to review it. Why don't we stop here?
Yes. John O'Reilly, I got your Cash App. Thank you so much, sir, as usual.
So on note, we're on page 88 when we continue.
Okay.
Hey, there's Brendan, Sara, your best friend Brendan, the male version of you, listening with Varm at Honus Beach, which I hope means Jones Beach. That's what the kids say. Tailgating with his car and Larry Bird plates. Tailgating. What? I gotta know what the substances are. I gotta know. Tailgating to see who? The fucking Spin Doctors, Duran, Billy Ocean. Who are we seeing at Jones Beach, Brendan?
And what are Larry Bird plates?
He has a personalized license plate that says Scott Wedman 44.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It says Danny Ainge 44 on his license plate.
Oh, okay.
It says Jerry Seasting 3. Would you get a personalized license plate that said Brad Lowhouse?
No.
No? Come on. We're at 2 hours and 8 minutes here. This is really good. You can see why they wanted this taken right out of the trial. Everything Marilyn Manson was the boogeyman.
Yeah, of course.
We hate Marilyn Manson, right, Brendan? He's everything wrong. My interpretation of Depp's early life as a aspiring rock and roller in the punk scene, Marilyn Manson and all his hot topic fucking Spencer's Gifts gimmicks and brooding emo blackface is everything Depp's band and Depp, even in his early days, should have been against. His mirror and I might hate Manson more than I hate the Sauvage campaign. As a matter of fact. ARM, is your copy of the transcript an image or a PDF? Scrolling
PDF.
It's a PDF. I can get through it. It's just bouncing. So you're trying to read it like in step and it's bouncing. It's fine.
It might be the stream or the StreamYard. Who knows?
Like it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't respond when you scroll immediately. It sort of bounces and you're like, what? And then you're repeating a lot of the same stuff. But that's okay. I'm getting through it. Great job, Sara, too, as Christie Depp.
Thanks.
The subtlety. That's how she'd say it.
No, thanks.
What the hell did I want to say here? So we're on page 88. We're going to stop at page 88.
Let's go back to just us on the screen.
I'm afraid to take it off. I don't know why.
That's all right. We're done with it.
You see that lawyer? That's who's speaking. That's Joshua. Literally, his name is Joshua Tree.
You want to do a reminder about the fantasy?
Yeah. So fantasy football. Contact us at all the different things. Like and subscribe. As the kid says, I feel like such a want to jump out of my skin when I say that. I'm very uncomfortable. I have imposter complex, and I don't like saying that. Feel so cliche. I feel stupid, as Kurt Cobain says, reading that.
I think
Fantasy
I'm dumb.
football, get me at all the, whatever it is, DM, email, blah, blah, blah. You should even put my phone number and we'll set it up. I want somewhere between 12 and 16 teams, all the bells and whistles. I'm not just doing what the humanoids do. You're going to have punters stats count, individual defensive players count, stats count. So you really get a spin on what else was I doing? Coaches, right? We're going to do, if you can draft a coach for the week and he'll get 30 points,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's all those things. It gives you motivation to watch even the dumbest, stupidest matchup. If an Arizona Cardinal Houston Texan game is on Thursday night,
Oh God,
it gives you motivation to watch that.
I smell it from here. And take the chat down for just a second.
Sure.
We'll get back to it. Don't worry. I want to remind everybody we are a little short of the goal this month. So again, if you can, use the Venmo QR code you see there, if you can again, or the Cash App. We've gotten a couple of those today. I appreciate it more than you ever know. Patreon.com/Wino forever. If you're not catching the live stream, you can always go to the super thanks or just, again, scan the QR code or use the Cash App. Thank you, everybody, for your donations today. We're very close.
Where was the thing I wanted to play for you? This is Johnny Depp singing Sophie B. Hawkins to Sara
Oh, no.
as we go out.
Oh, are we ending now?
I'm in my life. Time between Arizona dream and Penny and June. That old dog has chained you up all right. I'll give you everything you need to live inside a twisted cage, sleep beside an empty rage. I had a dream I was your hero. Damn. Wish I was your lover. I'll rock you till the daylight comes. I'll make sure you are smiling and warm. I am everything. Tonight I'll be your mother. I'll do such things to ease your pain. I'll free your mind and you won't feel ashamed. Oh. I just want to remind everyone tonight, Radio Gunk 6:05.
Why 05?
Pacific time. It's because we're on TBS time. To stay in line with World Championship Wrestling. 9:05 Eastern time. I like Pacific time better.
As do I.
Open up on the inside. I want to feel you up. I'm gonna make you cry.
That wouldn't make me cry.
This monkey can't stand to see you black and blue.
All right.
I'll you something sweet each time you come inside my jungle book. Just too good. You'll stay, cause then you'll go away. Damn. I wish I was your lover. I'll rock you till the daylight comes. Make sure you are smiling and warm. I am everything. Tonight I'll be your mother.
That's really creepy.
Ease your pain. Your mind and you won't feel the pain. There is no other. You're the only shoe that fits. Can't imagine I'll grow out of it. Damn.
Damn.
That was love.
Oh, there we go. Oh, did it freak out?
No, I was just giving a little sample, and there's more of that to come as I think of them. I think Salvation Army band plays, and the children drank lemonade. Hey, nun, 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 nun. Life in a northern town. Might be next.
Oh, God.
Anyway, thank you, everyone. I love you. I'll see you tonight at 9:05 Eastern Standard Time.
And I want to say before you hit the exit button,
Okay.
our next show, due to family obligations for me over the next couple of weeks, maybe next Wednesday again.
We'll jump around. You know, the NFL's starting soon, so we have to rearrange.
Well, I know.
what
I
we
think
do.
what's going to happen is we're going to go do next Wednesday, just letting you know too. And then we got to go back to Fridays. I love Sundays.
Moo! 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 I'm a loser! Eh?
Sit down. Stay where you are. For the first time, I choose to walk out on you.
Or 21 Jump.